Hugh, it's Ryan Shelton, co-host the podcast with you. Catriona Bisset this episode is going to be really good, and really excited to get there and record this with you. Slight issue. I don't really know how quite to tell you this. It just sounds ridiculous as I say it out loud. But I'm trapped down a well, and I know it sounds like a joke, but I was just really curious. I was walking down the street and saw this well, and leaned in to have a look, and fell about 100 metres. So I'm okay, all good, and I'm just sort of trying to figure out a way to shimmy my way back up. So I'm assuming it'll all be fine. I'm just assume I'm going to be there, but if I don't make it, just call the authorities because I'm trapped down the well and probably starving. So hopefully I'll see you soon. Can't wait. This is going to be great. Episode 2. Woo! But I am trapped. I am in a bit of trouble. It's Ryan.
To call back, press 2-2. To replay message, press 1 to reply.
We're all imperfect, and on this podcast, I'll be chatting with a variety of interesting people who are willing to make themselves vulnerable by sharing their own struggles and imperfections.
Then we'll discuss the invaluable takeaways we can all apply to our own imperfect lives.
I'm Hugh van Cuylenburg from the Resilience Project.
And I'm Ryan Shelton from my mum. And this is The Imperfects.
So this week we have Catriona Bisset.
Just before we do that, I think we need to reference something that has been quite big in your life. I wouldn't say life-changing, but maybe life-changing. But for anyone who watched Lego Masters on Channel 9, the second season, you might have seen Hugh as one of the contestants. There was a contestant called Stanny, I think his name's Stanny, who was just looks exactly like you, Hugh.
Oh, not exactly.
Exactly.
So I remember the reason I found out about this was I was on the phone to Josh, and Josh's brother-in-law sent him a message while we are chatting, said, Hugh's on the television, or there's some guy on Lego Masters. Is it Hugh?
Yeah.
And Josh started absolutely pissing himself, and Josh said, you're not going to like this. And so he said,
well, yeah, when I say exactly, I mean, like, I think Stanny's a beautiful man. But, I mean, I think that Stanny, when I saw Stanny, it wasn't only, and this is Stanny on Lego Masters, it wasn't only the fact that physically he had similar features to you and looked like you, but I'm being quite genuine here, is that he was so, the positivity, like the light that shined out of him, he was just like this lovely, happy man, which is what you are.
I was tickled pink that people would think I was like Stanny.
Stanny's great.
He's a lovely man,
yeah.
And to be compared to him was just an absolute pleasure. So, Stanny, you probably don't listen, but if you ever do, it was a pleasure. I apologise for my initial reaction.
No, I think you should be very proud to be anything like Stanny, and likewise, Stanny should be very, very lucky to be compared to you as well.
He's not on Instagram. I tried to find him. Well, not under the name Stanny anyway. That's
yeah, okay. Probably under Hugh. It would be nice to organise some sort of meeting of minds, or to remake Parent Trap, the movie. Where you guys, Parent Trap, I think it was Parent Trap, where they're twin sisters.
Lindsay
Lohan was in the Disney version.
There we go, Josh. Very good.
Yeah, it's great. See, thank God we've got that microphone.
The Lindsay Lohan references.
The Lindsay Lohan references. All Lindsay Lohan references, let's revert to Josh. From now on, let's start making a list. But yeah, there was the Parent Trap movie is where they play twins and they play tricks on their parents and they keep swapping.
Okay.
So you could potentially do some Lego Masters publicity. Stanny could do an episode of this with me. I wouldn't know. Like, hey, Hugh. Hey, I'm Hugh, is what Stanny would say. Anyway, okay, so let's move on from that because this is certainly not the focus of this episode.
I'd love to get Stanny as a guest here.
Oh, I mean, he might have an interesting story. I'm sure he does.
Anyway, we're not here to talk about Stanny today. Maybe another time we can get him in. But we today, so for season 2, episode 2, very excited to be interviewing Catriona Bisset.
Yeah,
who I think a lot of people may not know who she is. The running community, anyone who's a runner will know exactly who she is. She is the fastest woman ever in Australia over 800 metres.
Yeah, and if the Olympics went ahead this year, or when they do go ahead, you will know her then.
She is as elite in her field as anyone we've ever had on this podcast. So I am so not that it's a competition, but I am.
What, athletics?
Well, that is, sorry, athletics is a competition.
You know, everyone, it'd be amazing at the Olympics. All right, everyone, so step up to the plate. Now, just remember, just doesn't matter who wins. Just enjoy yourselves. This is not a competition.
It's not a race.
It's not a race. Slow down. Enjoy it. Why are you racing through it? It's going to be over before you know it. You're at the Olympics, for crying out loud.
Now I know Catriona very well, and I just want to tell the story as how I got to know her. She points out in the podcast, it's actually, I first approached her about being on our podcast, and then that was maybe 7 or 8 months ago, and then in that time I've become quite good friends with her. So I love my athletics, as you guys know. I'm obsessed with us, and I run a lot. And I was sitting in a cafe reading the paper. I can't remember. I think it was The Age. There's an article that said new world record, new Australian record holder, and I went, oh right, and I didn't know who she was. And I read the article. I thought, oh, that's really cool. That's very exciting for her. Really nice to have a Olympic hopeful. And then the last paragraph.
It's quite the internal monologue. Oh, it's very good to have a new Olympic record holder.
Anyway, I got to the last paragraph of the article, and it said a very small. There was a couple of lines. It just said, Catriona started running when she was 22. Catriona started running when she was 21 years old to help with her anxiety and depression. I remember going, whoa, now I'm really interested. And I couldn't get it out of my head. And I followed her on Instagram, and then I sent her a message and said, we have a podcast where we chat to well-known successful people about their internal struggles, and would love to have, would you be interested in catching up so we could talk about this?
Yeah.
So we caught up a week later. Lovely person. And I can't remember how it came, but she said, oh, do you run as well? Or are you into running? And I said, oh, actually, I am a little bit into athletics, yes. And she said, oh, what do you mean? I said, oh, I compete. I run the 400. And she said, really? What time are you running it? And I was a bit embarrassed to tell her. And she said, oh, you should join us. And I said, sorry, join who? And she said, well, my
Australian
group.
Olympic team.
Yeah.
You should come along.
So she said you should join us, and what she was referring to as her training group. It made me I started thinking, her coach is Peter Fortune, who coached Kathy Freeman to gold. So I'm thinking it would be great to have him as a coach. I mean, that would be pretty awesome.
I mean, either a coach or a celebrity hypnotist. Peter Fortune is an incredible name, by the way. Please welcome Peter Fortune. Look at me, okay, and sleep. Peter Fortune. It's the best name. The amazing Peter Fortune. This is not a slight on Peter Fortune. He's obviously a very good coach.
Well, it's a great name for a great man. And she said you should join us. And it just made me, and the thought of doing it made me so nervous that I just felt like I had to do it.
Yeah.
Like I just thought this is...
What an opportunity.
That's an incredible opportunity to train with... I'm 39 years old. I'm going to go and train with these group of Olympic athletes. So I turn up on the day, and it's at the Lakeside Stadium. It's a huge stadium, athletic stadium, the biggest one in Melbourne. And when I got there, it wasn't just their group. I turned up, I was mortified. I had to get a special pass to get through the Victorian Institute of Sport gym to walk in there. There are 3 groups all training at the same time. I walk in there, and the first thing I see are the 2 fastest men in Australia over 800 metres. Incredible athletes. So it's Australia and Victoria's best runners. And me. And I thought, and I felt sick. I thought, what on earth am I doing here? Because I don't look anything like those people.
Yeah.
They don't look like Stanny. That's what I'm trying to say.
The guy from Lego Masters is here. Oh my God. Can you sign my brick?
and so I just don't look like I'm an elite athlete. Anyway, so I'm thinking, Hugh, it's okay. You can do this session. What they're going to do, you can keep up just. So anyway, I said, met Peter Fortune.
He just appeared out of nowhere. Puff of smoke. Oh, Peter. Call me Peter Fortune. The full name will only do.
Oh, dear. And there's a certain aura about him. You know, he's coached Kathy Freeman to gold, and just meet him, and I'm there, my head spinning, thinking I just shouldn't be here. And the girl said, okay, we're going to do a quick warm-up run. And I thought, yeah, I've got to need to warm up, that's fine. And they opened the gates to Lakeside Stadium, which is next to Albert Park. And they said, okay, let's go. And I went, no worries. And they took off. and I'm battling to keep up with them. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, they're going further and further away from the stadium here.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, so how long is this? How long does this one go for?
Out of interest, is asking for a friend.
And they said, I think we'll just do 4Ks. We'll just do a 4K.
Oh.
And I went, oh my God.
At that pace.
Yeah, at this pace that was just, I mean, in training for 400s, my warm-up is like a couple of slow laps of an Astrac, 800 metres.
Yeah.
They just took off and did 4Ks, and I hung on. I just got back with them. 4Ks in about 16 minutes, so they're flying. That's the warm-up, and I'm cooked. I'm done.
Yeah.
And then we're sitting around, everyone's getting ready to do this session. So the session starts, and it reminded me I had this feeling, I started giggling to myself while I was running, thinking about, you know that thing that happens when you go over to someone's house for dinner, you really like them, you want it to be a great night.
Yeah, yeah.
You sort of want to impress them, and they serve up something that you would never usually eat. Like it's just something
you have to eat it. Yeah,
you just have to eat it.
Yeah.
I felt like I had the running equivalent of that. I was like, I have to do this.
Yeah.
I have to do
yum. 4Ks. No, you don't eat 4K? No. I love 4K. I love 4 kilometres sprinting. Thank you. Thanks so much.
So then we did the 200s. I managed to sort of keep up for those, just struggling a bit near the end. And then the 400 metres at the end, Peter Fortune said to me, Peter Fortune said to me, if you could try and stay out in front of the girls to really pace them for this one, that'd be great.
Oh, cheers, Peter Fortune. Yeah, no, happy to.
I couldn't feel my legs after the 10 200s in 28 seconds each. I couldn't feel my legs. They were just, and in any other situation, I'm going home and going, that's a great session. But I had to finish with a 400 in front of them. So I started in front of them. Catriona beat me by 60 metres. She honestly finished 60 metres before me in one lap of the track.
Well, of course.
And Peter Fortune was lovely. And he just said, oh, Hugh, you were struggling a bit there, mate. That's all right. Anyway, so I did the session and I get in the car afterwards. I can't feel my legs and I couldn't stop smiling because I just, I'd done something which put me way outside my comfort zone, pushed me massively physically. I got through it. My hamstring didn't snap off.
Yeah.
And I couldn't stop smiling. I couldn't sleep that night. I was just on such a high from.
Yeah. You'd met a real life hypnotist. I mean, what a day.
And in the coming months, I've become one of Catriona's training partners. So we do the speedier sessions together because she does the long distance stuff with other people. But I join her for this, and I've got to know her really well, and it's been an absolute pleasure to get to know her. But it's funny, I asked her to be on the podcast only from a paragraph that I read in the paper.
Oh, yeah.
And now knowing her story properly, she couldn't be more of an ideal guest for the Imperfects. So I'm so excited to play this interview for you all. Catriona Bisset. Can I be a fascination? Cause you hold the feeling in the moment. But you want the beat, I need the chill. Holding the pieces that just falling. Whatever happened to me. Thanks for doing this, by the way, today, because I feel like when we catch up, it's usually doing your thing of like running, and today it's doing my thing of talking.
No, I feel like I was thinking on the way here, I was like, man, like the whole reason that we became friends was because you asked me to do the podcast, and then because that's
true.
Yeah. And then we got into the running thing.
Yeah. So, Josh, that's actually what happened. The first time we caught up, it was like, because I wanted you to be on the podcast because I've heard your story and couldn't believe it, and then we became friends running though, and the podcast. That was like 6 months ago or something.
Yeah, that's it. It's been forever. It's taken us 6 months to get.
Oh, this is kind of the reason we're friends.
Get
but
to
not
the point.
Yeah. Can we still be friends after this?
That's what I was thinking. I was like, so does that mean we're done now? Like you.
Oh dear. No, I do really appreciate you. I actually kind of feel like because. Every time we train together, we do a warm-up run at the start, and it's, I don't know, maybe about 3Ks or something.
Yeah.
And I always feel like after a warm-up run, we've done an episode of a podcast. Like I find them so insightful just chatting to you when we warm up and talk about things. And we often, it's not just like, oh, what have you been up to? I don't know what it is. We just have the most deep chats just in a warm-up.
Yeah, so it's like, so I've been thinking, and then you just go into like,
one of us will do a deep.
So I've been processing this trauma. I want to get your opinion on it. It's like, all right, 3K's up, let's go. Let's do
that's
this
kind of what it is. So
yeah.
I did feel like we should do this podcast running because it maybe brings the best of our chat out. But I don't know if Josh would be happy with the sound quality, but also chasing behind us.
But no, thank you. Though. No, it's a pleasure.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. So I guess the thing that really I wanted to chat to you about was you are the fastest woman in Australian history over 800 metres, which is unbelievable. But I think when you hear that about someone, you think, oh, they must have been running since they were young and it's all they've ever done. And very different story for you. You started running when you were 21, 22, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, like I think the first time we met, the way that I put it to you is that like I've been doing my whole running career in the wrong order.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I mean, no, I started running when I was 6. So I did the little A's, all the little A's stuff. So I was running when I was like through primary school and high school. But yeah, I took a big hiatus and then I started.
So when did you stop? How old were you when you stopped?
I don't think I ever really said, look, I'm stopping running. But I stopped competing sort of in my early teens. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you remember why?
It was just I wasn't really improving. I was having a lot of issues with like, I don't know, like I was just sort of changing like at that age. And yeah, I mean, I've been pretty public about having an eating disorder around that time as well, which was definitely, like the elite running environment was definitely a big contributor to that. So it was this sort of combination of all these different things that just meant that I was taking a step back from running and like I just wasn't having much success. I was having a lot of issues with energy and fatigue and injuries and that sort of thing, which I think was all interlinked with the things that were going on in my brain. But yeah, and then I started running again in sort of like 22-ish sort of time where I decided that I really wanted to have another go at this.
What was the impetus to get you to go, right, I'm going to start running? Was there anything happening that made you go, right, I'm going to run?
Yeah, well, it's a few different things. Like I really found it extremely good for my mental health, which I find like such an interesting sort of how it really contributed to my mental decline when I was quite young. And then I found and then when all the pressure and stuff was off, when I was, older and, I had no ambitions to do anything with sport, it just became sport, not something that I had to define myself by. And then I found all the other beneficial things about running. So like the community aspect and the routine. And I think the routine was a really big one for me. Like I really wanted to commit to a training program. So doing all of the, the 6-7 sessions or whatever during the week, and then having that all build up into the competition period at the end of in the summer. And I already knew how to do like running because I'd done it since I was little. So it was just this easy transition back into it. Yeah. And so I found it just like really, really good for me in all aspects of my life. Like it really just created some stability. And I was really enjoying that, improvement and that sort of stuff that goes with it too.
We in this podcast, we talk a lot about mental health. So I'm fascinated to know what your mental health was like when you started running, or just before you started running again, and then that journey from running and beyond. Yeah,
well, I mean, it's so for my mental health history. Basically, I started having a lot of issues sort of in my early teens, and then through high school, I had an eating disorder and some periods like very bad anxiety and and all of this was undiagnosed. So I never saw anyone about it. Yeah. And then in my first year of uni, I started, I went home for that summer after that first year, and it's sort of everything that I hadn't dealt with over that, my adolescence, and now I was 18 and having all the new stresses of moving away from home and, like the drinking and sex and all this sort of stuff, like all these extra things that you go through in that sort of first few years of uni and that sort of thing. It was kind of too much, and I became suicidal and displaying a lot of suicidal behaviours and that sort of thing. So I was kind of forced into seeing a psychologist and really starting to deal with those things because it was, kind of life or death at that point. It was an emergency. And then for the next few years, started taking medication and seeing a psychologist regularly. And then when I finished my uni degree and I started working full time, I had a bit more stability and more routine in my life. And then that gave me a bit more space to add in the running and that sort of thing.
So I'm interested to unpack each thing that you've sort of done.
I really just threw it all down.
No, you did, which is great, which is really good. But I sort of want to look at each thing and how it's impacted your mental health as far as, because the reason we do this podcast is we want people to listen, and some people their story will resonate with them, and then they'll go, right, so what did that person do to make them feel better? So so the running, what does that do for your mental health? So because I want to talk about your career as well, architect. So you've got a lot going on in your life, but what does running do for your mental health? I mean, did you notice a significant change with your mental health when you started running?
Yeah, absolutely. So so when I started working full time, I had a bit more flexibility to really get into the routine of running, and I feel like running just created this space where it was organized. So there were going to be people there waiting for me at 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning, and I needed to be there. Yeah. So I would have to get out of bed and I would have to go. And you would have that social aspect, and it would be this social sort of thing that you didn't have to try. It was just something that would happen. And then, of course, you just get that physical benefit that we all know about of the endorphins and you just, that sort of positive feedback loop between your physical health and your mental health. And then it sort of just snowballed from there. And pretty much since then I haven't had any kind of extended period of mental health problems, except when I've been away from sport through injury and that sort of thing.
So, and do you feel like running is a huge part of that, or is it just one of the many contributing factors? I
think running was a really, really big part of it. And I think it gave me this sort of freedom because I had that structure there. It gave me the freedom to sort of nurture the other parts of my life that needed a bit more TLC. Yeah. I find when I'm studying and doing all these other things as well, my running is better. I just find I'm more relaxed. Yeah. I'm more grateful for it. I feel more like it's this amazing thing that I'm doing, not something that I have to be doing. It's just something, something else that's interesting about me. Yeah. And it's really nice having that space and having people who aren't in the running world as well, going to uni and hanging out with my uni friends. And they don't know anything about sport. They don't care about running at all. Yeah. They don't want to hear about me talking about running. It's so boring to know them. Yeah. They get annoyed that I rock up to the library smelling really bad and sweaty and wearing all my athletics clothes. I
want to work out how. So you start running 21, 22. Mm-hmm. You're 25 now, is that right?
26.
26. Yeah. Okay. So in that 4 years, you've gone to become, you literally are the fastest woman in Australian history over 800 metres. Yeah. That's an incredible, a lot's happened in that 4 years for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of say that, I fit in, and it all sort of happened within 4 months as well. It's I shoved in about 10 years worth of progress into about a couple of years. Yeah. And I mean, it's been really hard to process. Even though it's this beautiful thing that's happened, it hasn't been something that I've been working towards since I was really young. So having it all happen at once, it's been a bit of a shock. It has been quite a shock to the system and really shaken up my life. I came to Melbourne to study my master's and to become an architect, and now that's all being put on hold indefinitely until I'm ready for it again. So it's been very, very special, but obviously extremely intense.
But it has thrown up challenges for you, because you went from having issues with depression, anxiety. Oh yeah. You get back into running, and then you feel like everything's great again, and then you had an experience where you ran a time that absolutely put you on everyone's radar as like, she's properly arrived. Like I think you ran 2 minutes.
I ran under 2 minutes for the first time. Yeah.
Yeah. What happened after that?
Yeah. So I ran. So this was a week after I had won the national championships.
Yeah.
So that was the first time I'd made the final of the championships, and I won it and also ran the world championship qualifying time, which meant I was an automatic selection for the world champs. Yeah. And it was I think my 5th personal best in the season. So I was just rolling along, like really knocking down milestones very quickly. And then a week later at the uni nationals, so the national university games, I ran basically solo a sub 2 minute 800 meters, which is the fastest time, the first time someone had gone under 2 minutes in a decade. So it was, and I'd done it pretty much completely by myself. The person who came second, I think, was 8 seconds behind me. Oh. And yeah, it was one of those moments where it was just so shocking. Like it was just so far, like a performance so far away from what I thought I was, like the person I thought I was, or the athlete I thought I was. Like it was, like it just felt, it was very, very confronting, I think. And I think over the last year, because I ran that a bit over a year ago, well, basically what happened was like I just broke down afterwards. So about 20 minutes or so afterwards, I just started crying and was just inconsolable. And I didn't know why. I just had this real intense wave of emotion that has taken me like a year to sort of process why I was so shaken by that experience. And I remember sitting after the race with one of my friends and just like bawling my eyes out, and this official sort of looking at me and being like, tears of joy. I think that's tears of joy. But she said it in a way where she wasn't really sure. And I was like, and I wasn't sure. I didn't know what I was feeling. And so in thinking about that experience, like I think it was such a feeling of grief was, I think, the dominant emotion, like this feeling that my life was going to change forever, which it has, and this feeling that, you know, the person that I was and the person who I thought I was, which was someone who was never going to be good at running, who was never going to do anything with my life, like someone who, when I was little, when I was running well in athletics, you know, I was saying I wanted to go to the Olympics and win a gold medal and that sort of thing. And then a few years later, when I was having so many issues with mental health, I, was saying, you're never going to make it because you're mentally fragile. Like you just don't have the mental strength to do this. And so that's how I thought of myself. And then getting to this point where I'm running like sub 2 minutes, like it was no problems. I think it really just was very challenging, and I just felt, really confronted. And it also just meant that, there was no turning back from here. Like this is, I'm never going to be someone who, like, I'm always going to be someone who's broken 2 minutes now. I can't go back to that previous life, that previous identity. And I was really grieving my old self, I think, in that moment.
That's I always feel like things like that, I feel like you're a bit of a victim of your intellect, like, because I feel like most people, if they do that, it's like pumping their fists and cheering, like, yeah, how good's this? Oh my gosh, I'm getting there fast. Where you're like, and then, 6 months later, a year later, they might sit back and go, gee, I really missed that, the person I used to be before this happened, or like that life. Where you are straight like, oh my gosh, this means that I'm no longer that person. And when you realise that you're running fast enough to be in the Olympics, did you straight away go, good, I want to be an Olympian, or was it something you had to get used to the idea of?
It was something I really had to get used to. I'm definitely, I think it took only a few months to get used to it, but definitely initially it was that feeling of loss of control of like, no one asks you if you want to go to the Olympics or not. They just think that you want to. If you run the qualifying time, they're like, you're on the plane, good work. But they don't actually say, do you actually want to do this or not? So I was in that boat for a few weeks, but
you want to now? Is that
I want to now.
Yeah.
I desperately want to win a gold medal now.
Yeah, good.
I'm definitely, extremely competitive naturally, and it's taken me 12 months, but I'm in a really good place now of really embracing my new identity. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
which
funny.
is just fun now that we've got this pandemic and I can't. Anyway.
we just to prove this point, Josh, how much Catriona's still getting used to being Olympian. We were training the other day at the track, and I don't know if you noticed this, but like people look at you like when you're everyone who's training, everyone who's a runner knows, everyone who knows who Catriona is. So I'm very used to when we're walking around to get a training, the people looking at her all the time. And we were walking around the back straight, and this guy he was a coach. He would have been about probably 55, maybe 60. And I noticed him like we were just looking at Catriona every single time we walked past, and we were walking quite slow the next time. So he had his in, and as we walked past, he said, "Good luck at the Olympics." And like Catriona and I both turned and looked at him.
He said good luck at the Olympics. Anyway, keep going.
Wasn't it?
I can't remember what he said. No,
it was something about the Olympics, or good luck in
Yeah.
preparing for the Olympics, or how's your preparation for the Olympics going, or something like that. And Catriona didn't answer him and just looked at him and then looked at me because I think you thought he was talking to me. You just so didn't assume that someone would be wishing you good luck for the Olympics. It just wasn't.
Yeah. But I mean, walking around with you, like you definitely get recognised a lot as well.
Oh, well, not maybe in a different way, but like certainly not going to the Olympics. I don't think anyone's going, is that guy going to the Olympics?
No, I do that. Yeah.
Oh, and I remember you going, oh, yeah. Oh, thank you. Yes, yeah. And what are you doing here? Like you're just
yeah.
So it's obviously something that's you're still getting used to, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, even today I recognized like getting a coffee, and I was.
Do you like that?
Oh, I was like, it doesn't happen that often,
right?
And I was so chuffed. I was like, oh, this is so nice.
Yeah.
And I feel like the person probably thought that, like, is she always just like friendly and happy? And like, she must get this all the time. And I'm like, no, I'm just like genuinely like always shocked whenever someone wants to say something to me. But like at running meets, it gets a bit annoying because you're trying to do stuff and you get like heaps of people trying to get photos with you. And a lot of the time it will be like a dad who is a really big fan, but they use their small child, as like, it's like, my daughter really wants to take a photo with you. And the daughter's just like, does not care who I am. It's just like really annoyed, has no idea who I am.
Next minute, their daughter's taking the photos.
Yeah. It's pretty funny. Yeah. It's pretty obvious.
Yeah. Yeah, I find your journey through mental health fascinating because it's often the elite sports people I'm used to working with. It's like it's kind of the reverse of your story. It's just sport has been their entire life, and they talk about their teenage years as being pretty traumatic with like how much they had to train, how much they missed out on, how much they sacrificed, the feelings of like being scared they're not going to make it, and then they let's say it's AFL football, they're playing. When they're 20, 21, they're in the system, and then it's the anxiety around, oh my gosh, I've got to perform to stay here. You weren't even competing at 21. And so it's like and then you come into running and your mental health starts to improve when other people can be really struggling with a whole lot of stuff. How are you now? I mean, it's been a really crazy time. We talk about this a lot when we're running, but you were preparing for the Olympics. You'd got your head around the fact the Olympics were going to be in this year. Was it August this year?
End of July, start of August.
Yeah, so there's your mental preparation, and for someone who has had history with mental health stuff, like it's good for you, as you said, to have a routine, working towards something, and all of a sudden it's all taken away from you. There's a period where we didn't know if it was going to happen or not, and now it's sort of been delayed a year. How are you feeling now? Like, did that have an impact on your mental health?
Definitely at the start it was very frustrating. Especially like what I was saying before about taking so long to embrace this new identity and then finally feeling ready to go. And then suddenly someone putting the brakes on, or the world putting the brakes on. That was very frustrating. But at the same time, like, a couple of years ago, this was never even an option. Like, I think I've developed a lot of really good management strategies around this sort of thing. And I think I'm in a really good position in general, having gone through a lot of really tough times where my whole life has been, what I thought my life was going to be changes very quickly. I think, I think I always go back to, whenever I talk about my mental health journey, about all the really huge positives that came out of having that decade of working on myself and having a really hard time, but becoming really self-aware and having all these people that I can lean on and building that strong support team. So I feel really prepared when things like this get thrown at me, because it's like, I've had worse. Isn't it? It's still just like, I'm so grateful that I even have these opportunities. And of course it's annoying, but it's not, I've like we were saying before, I can just go back to my studies and, just wait until the next time. And I think with sport especially, like everything can happen within a few months. Like that's what happened last year. You can't plan for success and that sort of thing. So it's just, you just got to roll with it. But yeah, I think it's been really, really interesting, the change of identity, because like I was using athletics in a lot of ways as my medication for my mental health sort of thing. And then it's been really interesting having my medication become my career. And I think that's still something that I'm working with, like maintaining that, keeping athletics as something that's still mine, and that's part of, and I having fun with it. Like that's something that I really, really have to work hard on now, that it's something I'm, that's where my livelihood is now. Yeah.
Yeah. What one of my favourite things, one of the things I love when we talk just about life and our warm-up chats and warm-down chats, one of my favourite things is listening to you talk about your partner. Relationships are a really, I know there's something that you are really careful with, and you're very, I guess you're really careful with who you have in your life. But I love listening to the way you speak about your boyfriend Nathan. Can you tell us about why that relationship was so important, or how that relationship has really helped you through everything you've been through?
Yeah, well, so Nathan and I have been together for about 6 years now, and so I met him during a period, where I was having a really tough time, mental health wise. Like pretty much I was depressed around the time that I met him. I think I was 20, and he was just somebody who really took everything, like took all my emotions in his stride kind of thing. Like he was someone who hadn't experienced mental health issues himself, but was just very receptive, and just didn't really, everything just sort of like, water off a duck's back kind of thing. And I think the phrase I used before with you was that like that relationship and his sort of unconditional love and non-judgment of what I was going through was just like this real fertile soil where I could just be myself and not worry about, I guess, the judgment of others. And I don't know, it just created this nice little bubble where I was, free to work on myself. And I think it's been really important surrounding myself with these people who don't, what would you call it? Like, who empathize with me, but they don't take it on themselves to do it, to make me better, or, they just accept it. They just it's kind of that, like, totally. Nothing that I'm going through affects him. Yeah. I mean, he cares. Like, he doesn't want to see me as sad or that sort of thing, but he doesn't take it on himself. Like, it doesn't hurt him.
I I mean, in one of the last episodes we did on this podcast, we had my wife on, and Ryan asked me to give advice to people what it's like, well, to, supporting someone with, with the mental ill health. And I feel like we probably should have asked Nathan those questions because just the way.
I don't know if he would know how to answer it. He just naturally is good at it.
Well, yeah. And that's sort of what I gathered from our conversations about it. It's, I was only a couple of days ago when we were running, you were saying that, he just gave you a lot of confidence to be okay, not being okay, and to not feel like that was a burden on anyone. It was just what you were going through.
Yeah, like he didn't make me feel like it was a big deal. Yeah. I don't know. And I feel like another, little superpower from having my own experiences and now being in a really good place is that like I feel really confident supporting other people. Like I think a lot of it is just not making it a big deal, like empathizing and having compassion and feeling what they're feeling, but not letting them know that it's normal. Like I remember like one of my best friends, my best friend, she was telling me that she had started having suicidal ideations and that sort of thing, and she was talking to me about her talking to her psychologist and having to create this sort of emergency response plan. And I was just like, your first emergency response plan. Like, I remember my first emergency response plan. And just like, it's just like, it's not a big deal. And I feel like people, it's like, it's just something everyone goes through. And I feel like being, if you can do that, it just makes it seem more like a physical injury. Is
that how you actually responded? Did you say, "Oh, you first"?
I think I did something like that. And I think that's the thing too. It's like putting a bit of humor into it and just making the person not feel like it's this shameful big thing that they have to keep this dark secret about them. It's like, no, I've had lots of, really awful things that I've had to go through too. It's not that big of a deal. We all do it. Like, I think that's been really, really positive.
Knowing you quite well now, is you a really big ambassador for women and for girls. What is it that I have a little girl now. She's 15 weeks old now. I'm looking at Josh as if he would know more than me. I only look at you because you've had a baby at the same time, about 14, 15 weeks. Let's say 3.5 months. Yeah, she's a week older, yeah. Yeah, so
cute.
And
little
so
twins.
You are you're very passionate about women being okay with who they are and female empowerment, and what is it that you want young girls to, looking back on your life so far, what is it that you said that like it's nearly over. You got heaps left. But what looking?
Do you know something that I don't?
Such a weird thing to say. Not looking back on your life, but with everything you've learnt so far and everything you've been through, what is it that you want young girls growing up to know? And it doesn't have to be girls who are, up and coming athletes, just girls in general.
I get asked this question a little bit, and a lot of it's like, what would you tell your younger self and that sort of thing. And like, I think there's a few things that I think about with this question. I think initially, like, I want to say, like, just talk to people, like talk to your friends, because so many times that I've talked to some of my good friends from school and, told them, I was going through all these really tough things at that time. They say to me, like, I was going through the same thing too. Like, that was exactly how I was feeling. I thought I was totally alone. So I think just having those conversations, you don't have to talk to your family or that. So just someone that you feel comfortable talking to. But then also just recently, seeing a lot of the like racism and misogyny and really, like body shaming and that sort of thing that goes on in athletics and sport in general. I just want people to get really angry. Like, I just want girls to embrace their own anger around this sort of thing, Like, I think like young women are really forced to be humble. They're forced to be likable and sweet and take up as little space as possible. Like, I think like women and young women should just make a bit more noise about like what they're going through and not be ashamed or not be silent or meek about how they're feeling. Like, I think, like burn it down kind of thing. Like, if we really want to make big changes here, I want people to get angry about it and get together and, be
I love that.
Be a bit more pushy, take up more space.
Yeah,
I
totally.
think that's what my advice would be, is just like talk to each other, be co-conspirators and take up as much space as you like.
So good. We need to get that on a poster, a picture of you running. But I do feel, I've always, felt quite passionately about this, but now having a daughter, I really enjoy listening to you talk about women's issues, and I reckon a lot of people listening to this will be runners. I'll know who you are. Some people won't know who you are. I'm confident that this time next year everyone will know who you are. Because
don't know if that's a good thing.
Yeah, well, that's another issue, but I think that's a great thing, because I think you're going to do incredible stuff for young women around the country.
Oh, thank you.
And just by being yourself, which I think is really nice. I'll tell you one of the things that I find really great about running, because I already know that Ryan and I in this post chat, what I want to talk about is, one of the things I want to talk about is the benefit of exercise, because there's a lot of research to say how good it is for your mental health. But one of the things that I find really powerful, and this is to thank you for this, because you didn't force me to come and run with you, but you certainly had to push me at one stage, because I was like, I'm not going to go and run with these girls are ridiculously fast. I can't keep up with them. And early on, especially when I'd started joining you early in the summer, last summer, you'd say, today we're doing this session, or today we're doing this session. And the first thing I think was, I don't know if I can do that. That is so hard. But then because I'm running with you, I can't say, no, I don't feel like it today. I just sort of had to do it. And you sort of just, everyone takes off and you just hang on, basically. But then for the rest of your day or the next 20, you do something that you don't think you can do, and it's really hard, but then you actually get it done, and you sit there and you're driving back home, or you get home, and then another challenge pops up throughout the day, and you're like, I did that. Like, I did that running session. I can do this easily. That's nothing. I feel like it gives you more self-belief or more confidence, or it's something, I don't know what it is, but achieving something really challenging.
Yeah.
It just makes you feel so good.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's been the big thing that I've gotten out of becoming an elite athlete, or, doing the things that I'm doing now. Like, I never thought that I'd be able to do these things, and it's been incredible what it's done for my confidence and my self-esteem. And, I always think about how, like, the most powerful thing is like proving yourself wrong. Like, it's amazing proving other people wrong when you believe it yourself. But when you didn't believe it yourself, and you've changed your own mind just by having a go, like just trying something, like it just makes everything just seem so much more manageable. Like, now I think about, like, it's helped my uni so much. Like, I'm doing much, much better in my courses than I was in my undergrad, because I just have so much more confidence in failing, There have been all these training sessions where I'll go into it and I want to hit certain times, and, I might, not quite do it, or I'll just, be feeling really bad that day. And, you just blow up. But that's okay. It's like a safe space. And then you just come back 2 days later and you have an amazing session doing something else you didn't think you could do. And like, especially with like my strength training and stuff as well, like the stuff that I do in the gym, like, I couldn't do a single pull-up like 18 months ago, and now I can do like 3 sets of 8. And it's just like this, it's everything just becomes so much more manageable. You just break it down into these smaller little things, and you keep going. Yeah,
and this is something anyone can relate to. You don't have to be an elite sports person to be able to know how good it feels to get stronger and to be able to do something you weren't able to do before.
And I think we're also talking a lot about organised sport as opposed to just like, going out for a jog by yourself. Like, I think having other people there who are doing amazing things, and then you being like, maybe I'll just sit on the back of them and see how I go. I think that's really special as well, like having, you go to see it to be it kind of thing. and like, I think there are so many great things of doing, you know, sport on your own and sort of, you know, working towards a half marathon or that sort of thing. But being in that group, I think is especially powerful, and being able to share your success with these people as well and enjoy their success too. Like some of the girls in my training group, you know, when they like really nail a training session, like it gives me so much pleasure because you're just like, you know, that's so cool. Like it's so inspiring. Like one of the things I remember when I was, I think, you know, had first moved to Melbourne and I had just joined this elite squad and, you know, I was a bit older. Like that's the other thing is like, I'm 26 and I've just started my career. I've literally had my first year of my career, whereas most people probably been, you know, doing this for 10 years or so.
Is that why you wanted a 40-year-old to come along and join you?
Well, I mean, I think it's one of those things. It makes it a lot easier for me to be like, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be okay. Like, and I remember, so I think I remember seeing Laura Story as another 800-meter runner in Australia. She had run a really great time and made it to her first world champs. I think she was 28 at the time. So she had her like breakout season when she was 28. And I just remember seeing that and being like, I can do this. I'm just going to be like her. Like I'm going to be the next Laura Story kind of thing. And then, and then you just keep working and then you get to it. But yeah, I think there's a lot in that group thing about having those people around you, being those role models and showing you what can be done kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I see the young girls, there's quite a few young girls in our group and I see them looking up to you, literally following in your footsteps, quite literally, but it's amazing, an incredible thing to have. I can't wind out this talk without talking about your coach, our coach, also Kathy Freeman's coach for when she won gold, Peter Fortune. Just a lovely, lovely man. Honestly, just an absolute. He's a gem. How important is he to you? That sort of figure in your life?
Yeah, I'm never going to have another coach, basically. He's kind of like Nathan, like we were saying. He's just this kind of he's this person who's very consistent. Like I think that's another thing that we could say about Nathan. It's just he doesn't project his own feelings onto me. He doesn't put pressure on me. He just wants me to do well. And also he just gave me that space to grow. So I joined the group when I'd, you know, run 2:11, which is a pretty good time, but it's, you know, 10 seconds away from making an Australian team. Which
is a fair way, really.
Which is huge. It's like, you know, 80 metres.
Yeah. I was trying to do the math and I couldn't do it, so thank you. Yeah, 80 metres.
Yeah. And I was like at the back of the pack of the training group. And I remember sitting down with him when I moved there. I didn't even want to join his group. My old coach from Sydney knew him and was like, no, I want you to join a really, really good group because I think you have a lot of talent. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I think it's a bit too elite for me. But he's like, no, you're going to join this guy. And I was like, okay, well, let's do this. And I remember sitting down before and saying like, look, my PB is only 2:11, you know, I'm really sorry. Like I was really apologetic about being slow. And he was like, I don't care. Like he's like, you know, just like if you're a good person, like he just cares if you're a good and happy person. And he's like, as long as you're enjoying yourself and you fit in with the group, like he's like, I don't care what you do. Like, and that just gave me this really nice space to experiment. There's no pressure. There's no expectation. I mean, sort of further down the line, he started, you know, hinting to me that I was probably pretty talented. But yeah, it's that same kind of thing, just that freedom, you know. Yeah. He's not pushing any of his own ego or, you know, like me doing. He doesn't. What would you call it? Like, use me as a way to define himself, you know?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have only known him for 6 or 7 months, but I look up to him so much as far as that. Like that first session I did with you guys, it was a huge session, and then we finished with a 400 at the end. And at that point, I was there to pace you. And he said to me, Huey, if you can just try and stay out in front of her, that'd be great. And I think you finished 60 metres ahead of me. And I thought, I'm so embarrassed. He won't want me here again. This is so annoying. And he goes, oh, so great to have you here. That video's you're not very good at the last one, but that's okay. And he has a massive smile and he goes, we'll see you next Tuesday, whatever it was.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week.
That's it.
And he was, and I just, he's just he values people on them as a person, and that's it. And I think that's quite rare. I did it for quite a long time as a cricket coach, and you want to value everyone equally. You can't help but put a bit more effort into your really talented ones because you want to. So he's amazing like that. I think that's about all I really had to cover off on. I don't know if there's anything else you felt like you wanted to talk about that might be, because there could be stuff that you want to say.
I don't know.
I've got something I wouldn't mind asking. Oh, there's heaps of things I want to ask, but I'll restrain myself. Obviously, when you were running as a junior, you were running at an incredibly high level and doing some really amazing times. When you stop for that period of time and then start up again, what that's like to maybe not necessarily be as good as you were when you were younger. And then also, I guess it would be nice to hear what it was about the running that made you think, oh, yeah, this is now good for my mental health after stopping so long ago, because clearly it wasn't having a positive effect at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I think running just meant something different to me at that age. I think, yeah, absolutely. In the back of my mind, when I was starting again, I was like, I'm 22 and I can't run as fast as I was when I was 12, and but because that was so ridiculous, it was such a huge, I was a completely different human being. I was an adult as opposed to a child. I don't think I didn't have the same kind of barrier, that personal barrier of self-comparison as someone people that I do see now who were successful when they were 17, 18, because they still see themselves as that person in a lot of ways. But I think it was that running just was stripped back of all of the things that I had that I'd felt was putting pressure on me. So I had no incentive, I had no pressure to perform because I was this 22-year-old, no one who, no one knows, I was good when I was a child. It's funny the media portrayals of me now, and people are like, her mental health almost derailed her promising junior career. I'm like, what junior career? I was 12. I didn't have any junior career. It was maybe I was like child prodigy kind of thing, but it was it's not even that. It's, I don't know. I think, all these things were stripped away from running. So it just became this personal challenge again. It became this thing that I knew how to do. I think that was the thing. It was I already had learned how to be a runner when I was a little kid, but now it's I could be a runner without all those pressures that I didn't understand at that age. Now I could just get all the good stuff. Yeah. And now I got all the bad stuff again, but it's okay. I'm an adult now and I can deal with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so much sense. One thing that really fascinated me was the way that you described the way you were, once you broke the 2-minute barrier and you broke down, how you were processing that moment. It kind of made me think about process versus goals, and it kind of felt like up to that point you had this sort of safety blanket in the fact that you weren't the best or an Olympian or an Olympic hopeful, and that at that point when you broke the 2-minute barrier and broke the Australian record, suddenly that safety blanket was just removed.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it. Yeah, absolutely. It was this thing where I could no longer hide, I could no longer use running. It wasn't mine anymore. I felt now Australia was behind me now. It wasn't mine. And sorry, what was the question again?
I guess the question, I guess I didn't really ask a question yet, but I guess the question would be, how do you go about recalibrating that process that was working so well, it was doing so much for you from a mental health point of view, is now gotten you to this different position. And how do you recalibrate that? And how do you reconcile that? Because now that process is giving you external rewards rather than just internal.
Yeah, I think that's so fascinating. And yeah, it's something I've been really working through. And I think one of the reasons why I was so shocked of, running so quick at that stage, just because I had no goals. I had really, really like soft goals. Like I wanted to make this Australian team for the national. It was the World University Games, which had quite a soft qualifying time that I was very close to already. And that was my only goal. And I refused to make any bigger goals because I was like, I was afraid of not getting them. And that still just plays into that self-doubt I had and that sort of self-doubt that I've had to work through. And I think, I was so head down, focusing on my process of just enjoying training and, just enjoying, improving and that sort of thing. And then just the time started just knocking down. And I think that says a lot about, that process versus outcome-focused training or approach. But now I've really had to learn to have big, lofty goals and to give myself permission to have those goals. I think has been a huge difference between thinking of myself as a runner or an elite runner kind of thing. And I think that's like a confidence thing. I think over the last 12 months, like I've really been able to let myself have these bigger goals and to let myself want these things. Like I had a really great chat to Sally Pearson at the World Champs, which is like just the craziest thing about about being an elite athlete now, like talking to like multiple world and Olympic champions like it's nothing, just texting them on WhatsApp and just hanging out with them at the World Champs and her knowing who I am. And the thing that I loved so much about her and that I found so inspiring was that she was so uncompromising about, going for what she wants. She's like, I'm a champion. I'm going to go and get what I want. And I feel like as women, like we're not, like especially as women, we're told to be humble, to not take up much space, to be quiet. And I think that's the same kind of thing. It's like, I want you to be, I want people to have big goals because then they'll go for it. And when you have those big goals, it means that you love yourself, that you have this faith in yourself, that you can even imagine yourself doing that. Like it's always fascinating. Like some of my favorite athletes, like there's one sprinter, an Australian sprinter from a Sudanese background, Bandiri Oboya. She, like something that always sticks with me is that she was interviewed before World Champs and they were asking her like, who do you look up to? Who's your favorite like sprinter? And I think she's like 19 or something. And she was like, like I think last year, a few years ago, I would say Kathy Freeman or Alison Felix. But she's like, but now it's just me. It's like, I just look up to me because I've done such amazing things. And she's like, and I love that answer so much because it just is like, she can just get inspiration from herself, like that she thinks she's hot shit and she is.
Yeah.
And it's like, so it's something I've had to learn. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great answer.
So combining the process and outcome, they can both be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Penny's mum went to quite a prominent private girls' school, and their motto when she was at school for girls was "Be quiet in movement and speech."
Oh Jesus!
Holy shit!
Yeah.
Still
No, I don't think I haven't checked. I'd be very surprised if they did. No, but in all seriousness, I thank you so much for joining us because and thank you for me personally as well because I've got so much from first of all joining you guys, like you letting it's a group of girls between the age of like
16 to maybe 30-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's one guy who's 39 running with him. Like, for you guys to let me join you, it's just People will probably look and go, why is that old man chasing them around?
It's not weird. I think that's another amazing thing about organised sport, or particularly organised running, is that you get these intergenerational friendships.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's amazing. Like, I'm like really close friends with my 75-year-old coach.
Yeah.
You know, like where else do you get the opportunity to make friends with all these diverse people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Or
it's
like
been
friends with like
amazing.
16-year-olds. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's been an amazing thing for me personally. So for you to invite me down was quite surprising, but I loved it. So thank you. And then, but also I've just learned so much from you and from the other girls in the group and from Fort. So it's been huge for my life. So thank you for having me. But thank you for coming on the podcast, because I'm sure your story won't just help others, it'll also inspire them.
Thank you.
Thank
you for having me.
And I'll see you next time we run.
Yeah. See you when you get your shit sorted out with your legs.
Can I be a fascination? 'Cause you hold the feeling in the room. But you want the beat, I need the tune. Holding the pieces that just falling. Whatever happened to me?
Well, what an amazing story. Like, to start, I was, because you'd mentioned to me, I think when you were talking about Catriona before we were going to have her on the podcast, that she's this woman who's like this champion runner now, but she only started running at 21. I didn't realize that she was a runner when she was a kid.
Yeah.
And then kind of like gave it up, I guess. Like, that's fascinating how she kind of came back to it for a completely different reason. Like, when she was doing this as a kid, and she would have just been doing it because she was probably good at it, or someone put her on a track and say, "Oh, this is quite good."
Yeah.
Like any sport as a kid. But then to come back to it for the purpose of improving your mental health.
Yeah, which it does do. Like, everyone knows that exercise helps you physically, and I think most people would know what it feels like afterwards.
Yeah.
The feeling you get, but it's actually scientifically proven that it actually does do huge things for your mental health. So it improves your mood, it reduces anxiety, and it reduces depressed mood, and it actually builds your self-esteem. Mm-hmm. I think everyone knows that, but that's kind of like the effect of the endorphins flowing through your body that just make you feel really good.
Because even though I know that, like, I know that, and I know the experience of feeling better after I exercise. Like, I know it so clearly, but it's still hard to motivate myself to actually get up and go like, oh, I will go for I'm never going for a run, but like, I will go for a walk, or I will, do that exercise class or something. Like, I started doing Pilates like about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I love it. But now, since we've been in this isolation period, and it's reliant on me to go online and go onto one of the classes and watch the video, I'm just doing it way less. But whenever I do it, I know I feel awesome afterwards.
Yep. Yeah, totally.
So this is, I guess,
a question about motivation, really.
The question about motivation, which is probably the $1 million question, and how, I guess.
Well, I heard something really helpful the other day, which I heard through the head trainer at Nike over in the States. He was saying that people set goals as a form of motivation, but so often they're the complete opposite, because you say, I've got to do, say you want to get stronger or whatever, you say, I'm going to do 50 push-ups every day. And then you might do it the first day. The second day you go, oh, I'm a bit sore, I won't do it today. Yeah. And then you start to feel a little bit down on yourself. And you're like, oh, God, no, I'm failing already. I'll do 50 tomorrow. I can't be bothered. I'll just do 30 or something. He said, set yourself really, really, really small goals. Really small. He said, honestly, if that was my goal, he said, I'd set myself the challenge of doing 3 push-ups a day. That's it. He said, so then it's easy to get motivation to do 3 push-ups.
Yep.
You get down, you do 3 push-ups. And he said, once you're doing them, you'll go, I'm here now. I may as well do 10 or 20.
I might start with 2, but I'll work my way up to 3. But whatever the number, I guess, is right for you. But
and he said, once you're doing it, you'll go, actually, no, I will. I can do more than 3. I'm here now, I might as well do 3. But if you just don't feel like it at all and you do your 3, you go, well, I've achieved my goal.
Better than nothing.
Yeah. And I don't feel like I'm a failure already.
Yeah.
So I sort of laughed at that and thought, I don't know about that. But then I drive past my local athletics track every night, or whenever I go home from work, I have to drive past it. And there's a session, it's just hard at the moment with Elsie and Benji and trying to do running and work and all that kind of stuff. And the one thing that I'm sacrificing is running, right? And I often, if I'm too tired, I go, no, I can't be stuffed. I'll do a big session tomorrow. So I thought what I'm going to do is one of my sessions is just like a 2K flat out as fast as you can.
Yeah.
And I often don't feel like doing that. So what I've said to myself is I'm just going to do one lap of the ice track. I'll get in the car and I'll go home. It's going to take me like a minute to do that.
You know, I'm just going to get out and run 3 meters, and that'll do. Just set myself the goal. If I can run 3 meters, and that I can fit that in, and I know I can achieve that. Maybe 5.
But it's so often the actual process of getting out of the car, doing a lap and going, I'm here. I'll just do the full 2Ks or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's been amazing for me. So I know this is very counter to what we've ever been told, but set yourself really small goals.
Yeah.
So you don't not meet them at the very least.
Years ago, I started thinking a similar sort of thing. I don't know how I got thinking about it, but often from a creative point of view, it's slightly off topic, but kind of similar, where the idea of going, if you've got an idea to make a film, like people go like, I've got an idea for a movie, and people will be like, okay, I'll start writing it. But the goal of making a full film is enormous. And to be able to actually finish a full film is going to take so long, probably some money. You're going to have to raise money. You're going to have to get all these people to help you. And so I started realizing, I'm just going to set myself goals. I'm going to make one 15-second video a week. And then it's so much easier to finish that. And you probably get a similar level of satisfaction just for the simple fact that you've finished something. And I reckon it's probably a similar feeling where it's like if you set yourself a goal of doing 3 push-ups versus like setting yourself a goal of doing 100 push-ups, yes, it's going to be, you're going to have, there's be more of an impact on you if you do 100, but it's just doing what you've set yourself. Like that feels good.
Yeah.
No matter what it is.
So often you're more likely to keep your go, I'm here now, I may as well do a bit more.
Yeah.
Which I've found has been massive for me. But
see that kind of confuses me, that, and I guess everyone's different, but I don't quite understand how someone who's suffering from anxiety and depression can motivate themselves, because often a result of being highly anxious or depressed is that you can't get out of bed, or that you don't feel like doing anything or seeing anyone or leaving the house. So it's quite a feat from what I know about it to actually get yourself out of that state to go and do the exercise. Like for a lot of people, that's quite a hard hurdle to jump.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting one for her, because it's gone from I'm going to do this as part of my therapy, and she was so determined to get better. Running's going to be part of my therapy. She gets better because of her running. She feels it's because of her running. And then she becomes so fast. The first time she runs under 2 minutes, she's having a bit of a breakdown, as she calls it, on the track, because it changes everything. And all of a sudden, it's not about running for therapy. It's like, now I'm running for Australia.
Yeah.
Which is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
The other thing I really want to talk about off the back of that is the benefits of group exercise.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because I was training by myself for a year, just plodding around the track. I invited Josh down a few times. I was really keen to get Josh involved in it.
You a runner, Josh?
No.
Yeah, okay.
Well, it used to be at school, and so
yeah.
Oh, right.
15 years ago.
So you know the technical aspects of...
I know how to run.
Yeah, same. I know sort of theoretically how it works.
Yeah, one foot in front of the other kind of business.
And faster than walking, yeah?
yeah.
I know.
That's it. You know it.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed the running by myself, and felt like after I ran, I always felt better about myself. But then when I joined this group, Catriona's group of runners, it's like a whole new level of, you get the benefit of the physical exercise. And by the way, you do heaps more when you're with a group, because
yeah, of course.
You do something you're not capable of doing by yourself. You need other people there to motivate you to do it. But then there's also the connection, like sharing stories and chatting to people during the warm up. Well, they can chat, I can't. I'm too tired.
Do you feel like part of something? You feel
you feel like you're part of a group. And if you don't feel like going, it's not really an option. Like, people training in groups and all different. It could be team sport. It could be groups like that you see at the gym. Or I was at one of the things when Catriona first asked me, I thought, I just love listening to my music though and running around. I do love that, but it doesn't compare to being part of a group and training with a group. And I played cricket for 20 odd years, and Josh played for the same club, and I'd forgotten, like, a big part of it is the best part I think you liked about Josh was just the connection to other people and being part of a group.
Yeah.
And I really felt that running with Catriona. And Catriona deliberately surrounds herself with she's got some great people in her corner, whether it's her strength and conditioning, whether it's her coach, Peter Fortune, really, really great people that she surrounds herself with, because I think she sees the benefit of having positive social connections, no matter what you're doing.
I can imagine. Like I only know from reading the Andre Agassi book, which she's
reading as well. Yeah.
And he talks a lot about the group that he kind of assembles around him, like the people he traveled with. And I guess that would be really important, especially for a solo sport where you're just competing by yourself and you need a good support team. But that would be so important.
Yeah.
And like Agassi did that in an incredible way.
Training in a group has been incredible for me, not just for accountability, but actually your improvements are so fast. Like I said before we heard from Catriona, I said that Catriona beat me by 60 metres in the last 400 metres we did in my first ever session. A month later, I realised we did the exact same session, and it wasn't until the next morning I realised we did the same session I did a month ago, and I kept up completely fine. There was no issues, and I realised I'd improved so much in a month, and there's no way that would have happened if I was by myself, because we just don't push ourselves as far when we're by ourselves. When we're in a group, as I said, you just kind of strap yourself in and hang on, and
you motivate each other. And
absolutely.
It reminds me of when I used to play mixed netball. I just knew that I was always going to play better. It's, because I was like, the others motivate me. I'm like, well, yeah, I'm goal attack this week, but if someone else plays goal attack in the second half, I know that they're going to be better off because they've seen me nail some pretty good shots from the arc. So
from the arc,
that's what we call it. That's what I call it.
Doesn't it not count if you're outside the arc, or is it just inside?
Just inside the arc.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, toughest shot in netball.
What kind of netballer were you?
Good. No, I actually really loved playing. I don't know why I stopped. Oh, because I hurt my ankle a couple of times.
Oh, really?
But God, it's a fun sport.
Were you fiercely competitive?
Actually, I was pretty fiercely competitive.
Yeah.
I got sometimes, when sometimes you play a team sport and you make things personal. Yeah. Like I did that a little bit. There were certain teams that I hated. I'm sure they were lovely people, but I really held grudges now that I think about it in mixed netball.
The research says that if you do three 45-minute sessions a week, that's incredible for your mental health. That's what the research is saying is really good. And I've read research somewhere else that's saying 20 minutes of movement every day, whether it's walking to and from work, or 30 minutes, walking to and from work, or running or gym, whatever it is great for your mood and reducing depression and anxiety. And so whether you do that by yourself, whether like you love listening to stuff, podcasts and walking, or whether you really, you have great groups that you're connected to anyway. So maybe you get that in other areas of your life. You don't need that when you're exercising. But I think for me, it's been incredible to be just part of this group and feel, I'm still waiting for them to go, yeah, thanks anyway, but we kind of, we're a bit slow.
I can the idea of doing it in a group really excites me. I feel like every now and again I hear about people who have running groups and I'm jealous of it. I don't want to do the running, but I want to be involved in that group.
Want to have a coffee afterwards with them. Yeah,
like running through the rain and, you just, you're in there together. I'm just imagining it quite cinematically like a Nike ad, I think. Like just seeing how cool that would be. But in reality, the idea of the running part does not excite me at all. Please don't make me.
Catriona also does a lot of work with a psychologist as well. So she's certainly working very hard at her mental health and continues to work at it. And I'm fascinated. This whole coronavirus putting the Olympics back a year. We were training 2 or 3 times a week together when the uncertainty was there. Is the Olympics going to happen this year, or there'll be no crowds, or there? And seeing her negotiate that and deal with that, and the ups and downs were pretty full on.
How did you deal with it?
The
idea of not going to the Olympics.
Do you know what I did have? I had the Australian Masters, like in Brisbane. It was like the national championships.
So you were going to compete in?
Yeah. So it was like
what?
So the
hang on.
It's not hard. You just have to look up the website and type your name in, and you're in.
So I could compete.
Yeah, absolutely. No. And by the way, just to let you know, in your age category, there are not many people competing, so you could win yourself a medal somewhere.
In the Masters.
Yes. I won gold in the Victorian Masters last year because there was no one else racing.
Yeah.
I was the only one.
Yeah, but you train. I'd have to be training.
But if
No, I
let's
think he
ho-
means there was literally no one else in the race.
there's no one else in the race. I was the only one in the race. That was it. There's no one else there.
Was there a medal ceremony?
Yeah. I've got a photo of it.
Oh my!
I'm on a podium
God.
by myself. No, Benji was with me. I'm holding Benji.
So is there a chance next time they'll just be you again?
Well, no. Well, it's yours now because I've moved up an age group. I'm now in the 40 to 45s.
You're passing the baton.
Yeah. So there's no one racing, and it's yours. Turn up and you could walk, and you would get a gold medal.
Oh, that would be unprecedented. It would be amazing. God. Okay, something to think about. Still might be hard to motivate myself, but on the morning, can't really be bothered.
Oh dear. So anyway, she's incredibly brave, Catriona, to share that, and I hope it helps a lot of people. And that I think just to set yourself small goals, get out, be active. It's so good for your mental health. And I feel like people have been. I feel like what I can see. I feel like I'm seeing a lot more people exercise at the moment, just because. Maybe it's because people aren't in gyms and I'm seeing them out exercising.
Well, Catriona said that running's gone up.
Yeah, she did. Yes, she did. Yeah.
Like I feel it was like 20, whatever she said, 20-something% or something. Like a lot more people are running now.
Yeah. So it is great for your mental health. And in fact, I remember Maria, your psychologist, saying to me once that for anxiety, jogging's a really powerful thing to do.
Because she's big on exercise. Yeah.
Yeah. She said that or trampolines. She said
Really?
She was citing research, but kind of I think it breaks the brain stem. Doesn't break your brain stem, but the transmission of anxiety.
Now, not recommended, but trampolines will break your brainstem, which does some incredible stuff for your mental health. Your brainstem will be broken, so keep that in mind before it breaks.
I think I'm trying to say it breaks the transmission of anxiety through the brainstem or something. I don't know. The
Is
jolting.
that true? Trampolines. Oh, I could
That's what
definitely
Maria
get
told
into
me, yeah.
trampolines.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask her about that. I'd
Yeah.
love a trampoline. That's so much better than running.
Yeah.
Imagine that. Sorry, Jam, I'm going to go out and do 45 minutes on the tramp. Is that really true? Trampolining.
Yeah, apparently it's good for anxiety.
Well, this
Yeah.
is big.
And I can't remember. Maria told me about research she'd read, and I can't remember where she didn't show me where the research is from, but I remember thinking, if I'm being extremely honest, I remember thinking, because Penny has issues with anxiety, and I know that means our kids are at 50% chance of inheriting that.
You've got a trampoline.
Yeah, I thought that was one for me. I was like, I want them to be on the trampoline all the time if it's like going to help with their anxiety.
Yeah.
And the second Benji gets worked up or carried away or upset, which is most of the time, I stick him on the trampoline. That's amazing.
Is that why you've got a padlock on the trampoline net? But I'm I actually am genuinely excited about the idea of being able to go on a trampoline for my health.
Yeah. Well, you're always welcome.
Thank you.
Always welcome.
Thank you very much.
Um,
Anyway, well, Hugh, thanks. That was a great thing to hear from Catriona, and it's going to be pretty awesome to watch her at the Olympics now, knowing that story.
yeah, totally. Yeah. Catriona Bisset, thank you so much.
Thank you, Hugh.
But
See ya.
Hugh, it's Ryan. Well, that was great. Catriona Bisset, what an amazing story. Thanks so much. That was just a great interview, and I really think I learned a lot. But in all the excitement of the episode and seeing you, chatting with you and Josh, I totally forgot to talk to you about the fact that I was trapped down a well earlier today. I was trapped in a well, 100 metres. Yeah, that's mad. So, I just thought I'd give you a call and chat about it. But you're obviously busy, so give me a call when you can, and I can recount that trauma that I went through earlier today. Pretty big event in my life. So, it's Ryan again, and great chat today, great episode. Let's talk soon about the fact that I was down a well. Okay, bye-bye.
To call back, press 22. To replay message, press 1. To reply,
If this episode has
press
triggered
2.
anything for you around mental health, we strongly recommend Lifeline on 131114. The Imperfects is brought to you by the Resilience Project. Produced by Ryan Shelton, Hugh and Josh van Cuylenburg. A very, very special thank you also to No Mono for generously allowing us to use Keep On as the theme song for this podcast.